So this is our presentation on the topic of adverse socio-emotional effects of curated social media use in university students. The focus and purpose of this study would seek to analyze the potential relationship between specific content consumption, comparison, and rumination, and development of depressive symptoms. This is incredibly important given that the emergence of social media and its prevalence, particularly among younger generations, really demands scrutinization of any and all potential effects that could occur with its usage. So firstly, contemporary studies leave much to be concluded in regards to the effects of social media on mental health. Some studies demonstrate negative effects, whilst others have shown potential benefit for certain individuals. Some of the first research, however, to call attention to the potential issue of internet usage leading to depression was Kraut et al. In 1998, in which it was inferred that increased internet usage was associated with development of depressive symptoms and decreased socialization. So then, following that study, and more recently, Davila et al. In 2012 notably documented the role that specificity of internet use and rumination played in the onset of depressive symptoms. Depressive rumination refers to passively focusing on symptoms of distress and their possible causes and consequences, leading to fixation on problems and negative feelings. So this study sought to instill a rumination period after the usage of the internet to see how that impacted the onset of depressive symptoms. And following that study, Feinstein et al. In 2013 expanded to include how comparison of oneself to media and inclusion of rumination contributes to the onset of depression. So our study would be significant as there remains a gap in the aforementioned literature as to what mechanisms are attributed to the development of adverse symptoms, specifically the type of content consumed. Our study seeks to expand on this existing research in evaluating the relationship between comparison, rumination, and negative socio-emotional behaviors and responses. So we have two hypotheses. The first is that we predict there will be a direct relationship between the type of content consumed and degree of depressive symptoms expressed. We also predict that there will be a disproportionate rate of depressive symptoms prevalent in female participants in the experimental group as compared to their male equivalents.
All right, and for our methods, participants would be a desired sample of 200 or more undergraduate students from a public northeastern university in the U.S. Ideally, participant demographic would be evenly divided between men and women, and we would aim to have our participant sample be as diverse as possible when it comes to things such as race, ethnicity, religion, etc. Participants would be sourced from introductory psychology courses, and we would offer them an extra credit of 3 points to their overall grade as an incentive for their participation in the experiment. So for the experimental procedure, participants will undergo pre-test assessments, and the assessments would go in the following order: a demographic questionnaire, a social comparison rating scale, and a depressive symptom scale. When in laboratory settings, participants will be randomly assigned to a control or experimental group. The control group will be exposed to neutral stimuli being content that consists of food, portraits of nature, and other inanimate things, as well as mundane advertisements. The experimental group will be exposed to curated stimuli, and that would be content that would promote sex, fame, power, wealth, extravagance, and luxury. Participants would be asked to scroll through this content in a similar manner to popular platforms like Instagram for a period of 30 minutes. Afterwards, they would be asked to wait for further instructions from the researcher for a period of 15 minutes, which would allow them to ruminate. After this window, the researcher would instruct the participants to complete the final survey and our post-test, a Beck depression inventory. And just to go in a little more for the measures used during the procedure, the demographic questionnaire, that would be during that, participants will take an online survey consisting of questions meant to assess their social comparison, rumination, and depressive symptoms. For the social comparison rating scale, participants will go through an 11-item self-report measure that presents respondents with an incomplete sentence followed by a series of bipolar constructs with a scale of 1 to 10 on how accurate the sentences capture their feelings. For the depressive symptom scale, the that will be assessed with the Center for Epidemiological Studies depression scale that consisted of 20 items assessing past experience of depression symptoms. During the rumination period, it will be the same as it was previously discussed earlier in our presentation. And for the Beck Depression Scale, that will assess depression in using the Beck Depression Inventory Second Edition, which is a 21-item self-report measure made to test the affective, cognitive, and somatic symptoms of depression. And we will be analyzing the results using z-score testing, mean, standard deviation, and effect size.
So the whole purposes of the experiment was to exactly make the distinction of what aspect of the social media is causing this higher scores of depression. So we hypothesized that reason to be the social comparison that occurs when one sees profiles that they want to be like or what they deem as successful, and then they kind of compare with their own self. Uh, with that said, we predict that there would be a significant difference between our control and manipulated, and that our manipulated will score higher on the depression scale. Along with that, we also predicted that the females will also have significantly higher scores of depression in relation to their male counterparts of the manipulated group. So, by virtue, these predictions predicate on our z score being higher for a manipulation group as compared to a control group. In addition, our effect size, Cohen's d, would be greater than zero point 0.2 around that, indicating that the effect size is moderate and that there is, in fact, an effect. Our hypotheses were founded on already established research. For example, we take from Feinstein's et al. Experiment that showcased how Facebook use and social comparison in particular regarding Facebook was positively associated with depressive symptoms. In addition, we also expected to see greater scores of depression for females due to the fact that we all believe that they are more prone to social comparison. This was also taken from research and just taken at face value. So, as previously said, we were trying to showcase what the primary factor and what specific content that's in social media that is causing our higher depression scores. Um, Given our expected results, it would support our hypothesis that a primary factor in social media that causes these higher depressive symptoms is content specific. The interpretation of these results is that the successful profiles that we see cause us to reflect and respect to our own self. And then we hold ourselves to these unrealistic standards of them. This is due to the part that we are not truly aware and conscious of the behind the scenes work that occurs, which is like photo edits, circumstances, and just simple fabrication that we are not aware about. Much of social media acts as a highlight reel, and we should be more conscious and cognizant of it especially when we attempt to compare ourselves with such. The expected results would also support the hypothesis that women are more prone to this type of social comparison. We attempt to explain this phenomenon due to biological difference and as well as Western standards of beauty for women. Previous research had already suggested that women are more prone to psychological malady and are more likely to engage in social comparison. In effect, this would also mean that women are more likely to compare themselves to the skinny models, edited body types that are simply unrealistic in relation to the men. In addition, the well-established effects of testosterone and other hormones can also result in lower effect of social media in regards to men. Our research can be used to deter others and help alleviate, on an individual level, the negative effects that may arise from using the social media and the social comparison. The research can also serve as a foundation on many platforms in respect on how to avoid negative externalities in a social media experiments. In addition, it also serves as an insight how the way we internalize such content can affect us variably, and how outside influence and gender difference affects us in ways that we may not even realize. Considerations must be made in respect to external validity. Individual differences are inherent and results can vary with each trial. Further research can be done in respect to culture. It would be interesting to note if results are different in women in different cultures.